Hello, we are entering week 5 of EDU 612-702, and that means we're really getting into kind of the meat of our course and the real important factors that we need to think about as we prepare our 10 lesson social studies units to implement with our students. So this module and the next module, module 6, address a really important situation that's happening in today's K-12 classrooms. And that's the scary fact that we as educators are actually preparing our students for not only college, but ultimately careers. And in many instances, these careers don't yet exist because of the rapid pace of technology. We are actually preparing students for some careers that aren't even invented yet. So that's quite a challenge for educators, because how can we prepare students for something that's completely unknown to us? And so this module kind of addresses the learning theory and some of the approaches to how we might actually go about doing that in a successful way. So basically what this module will do for us is give us an overview of the overarching constructivist learning theory, and that's the learning theory, particularly Piaget's constructivism and Vygotsky's constructivism, that encompass the project-based and inquiry-based and Quad D activities that we'll be implementing into our units. So you're going to see kind of an overview of the umbrella learning theory, which is constructivism, and then dive into each of the specific learning models, which are inquiry-based, project-based, and Quad D activities. They're all very similar, but they do have their own unique characteristics. Each of those learning methods, inquiry-based, project-based, and Quad D activities, fall under the constructivism learning theory model. I'd like you to start this week with Bill Daggett's Rigor and Relevance framework. I have a lecture here for you and also a corresponding PowerPoint document of the same things, just in case you need to see it in print form. So I'd like you to watch the lecture that I have for you about the Rigor and Relevance framework and about Bill Daggett's kind of position that we are preparing students for an unknown future, and it kind of sets the premise for why we need these inquiry-based, project-based, and Quad D constructivist activities for our students, and why we need to present them with novel assessment opportunities, novel learning experiences, so that we can prepare them for the unknown of their future. So start with Daggett's Preparing Students for the Future PDF short reading document, and also the corresponding Rigor and Relevance lecture. Then I'd like you to start browsing through the other readings so that you can explore the subtle differences between inquiry-based learning and project-based learning, which are both constructivist learning theories, but they do have their own unique characteristics. And so there's some readings here for you about constructivism and inquiry-based learning. There's a PDF for you on project-based learning, and then under the reading in Module 5, you'll see some other essential resources for project-based learning and inquiry-based learning that you can explore, and the constructivism as a whole as a paradigm for teaching. So I'd like you to explore and kind of note the subtle differences between project-based, inquiry-based, and Quad D activities, and how those are all encompassed by the constructivist learning theory. You'll be writing a paper, an essay this week, a short 2 to 3 page essay that kind of discusses how each of those unique learning models are encompassed by constructivism and the subtle differences between each of those. So these will be good resources for you as you go about completing that task. And then finally, another important piece to this module is going to be exploring the Understanding by Design Module G section of our text, which is determining evidence and understanding and developing your assessment tasks. So you'll start to think about how these constructivist learning theories, specific approaches, how those might take shape in your classroom, and specifically how those might come to life in your unit, particularly in the activities that you ask your students to participate in and the assessments that you ask them to complete. So you're going to be reading a little bit about assessment tasks and starting to think about what will it look like when students know the content that I've asked them to master in my unit. What will they say and what will they do to show mastery? What will that look like? Start by thinking about what your desired results are, and then if those are your results, what would be an appropriate assessment? And the thing is, you want to bring in those constructivist learning theory ideas into your assessments. So basically, you want to think about that transfer knowledge. Basically, what can students do with this info that they have from my unit? Now that they've learned it, what can they do with it? Can they apply that content knowledge in a new and novel looking task, a new scenario other than the context in which they learned it in? So it's asking them to apply that content knowledge in a practical way. And you'll need to do that throughout your lessons in the activities that you ask them to do in your unit, and also in their assessment opportunities. I'm looking basically for inquiry-based activities and quad D activities in your lessons, and project-based assessment opportunities that ask students to take the content knowledge that you're giving them and apply it in a practical way. So ultimately, it becomes less about students memorizing and regurgitating information and more about understanding the information and being able to apply it to those new novel scenarios. And ultimately, that's what will prepare them for the unknown of their future. So once you have a handle on the overarching constructivist theory and some of the subtle differences between inquiry-based, project-based, and quad D activities, you'll be synthesizing all of that into one of your assignments this week, which is to write a 2 to 3 page essay synthesizing the constructivist learning theory and its relationship to the rigor and relevance framework. So you'll be writing an essay comparing the characteristics of inquiry-based learning and project-based learning and the constructivist theory as a whole, and discussing how those might relate to Bill Daggett's rigor and relevancy framework model, which you have examples of back in the reading in Module 5. Discuss how these theories fit into the quadrants in Daggett's model. You can discuss how they might fit into your classroom and your unit, and give specific examples of activities for inquiry-based learning and project-based learning and some quad D activities that you could apply in a social studies context. Then your final activity for this week will be to respond to the discussion forum post, which is specific to the rigor and relevance framework. This is basically, I am asking you to look at the PowerPoint that I've created for you. It's Bill Daggett's PowerPoint in my corresponding lecture, which you should have already viewed, and respond to 2 or more of these following prompts. So select 2 and discuss them in your post, and then as always, respond to 2 or more of your colleagues. Okay, it's a lot of work this week, it's a lot of synthesis, but this is really the heart of the course, and I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you start thinking about how you might include some of these learning activities and learning theories into your unit. Please reach out to me if you have any questions or concerns, and I hope you have a great week.